United Dairy Farmers brings you Off the Bench. It's great to have you with us. I'm Tom Brenneman. We're with you for another hour. We've been talking the last couple of days about Tracy Jones and having a fall, but I want to hear it directly from you, Tracy. Welcome back to the program. You couldn't join us on Tuesday. What happened? I'm being serious about this now because I know you like jacking around and having fun, but I can just tell by looking at you. I mean, you're beat up, cut up, bruised up.
Yeah.
Did you break your nose? What'd you do?
Well,
what happened?
Here's the deal, Tom. I'm looking right now. I look absolutely horrible. Just absolutely horrible.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that.
Here's the deal. Let me ask you this. A pretty boy like yourself, network guy, would you ever go on camera looking like this? Look at this. That nose is broke. I know it's a big nose, but it's broke. This tip of my nose.
Could you tell me how that happened?
Well, let me set you up just as far as my wife and I. I got up at 6 o'clock.
Be very careful here about you. I mean, be very careful.
Yeah, I don't care. I've been through a divorce once. It's not a big deal. Love my wife. But 6 o'clock I wake up, right?
Right.
And my wife comes into the office and says, well, what are you doing? And I said, I'm getting ready for Off the Bench with Tom. She says, Trace, you can't go on Tom's show looking like that. I mean, you're a radio guy. He's a network guy, like I said.
Yeah.
And it's kind of embarrassing because you guys sent over the makeup crew early this morning,
we did.
trying to work on this face.
Yeah.
So my wife says, you can't go looking like that on that show. And I turned to Danae and I said, Danae, the show must go on. I don't know if you've ever heard that saying, Tom. And she looked right at me and says, you are such a gamer. That's why I love you. How about that, Tom?
Listen, I believe everything that you just said until the part where she said, you're a gamer. That's why I love you. I don't believe that happened.
Well, it's funny is people say you're a lousy baseball player. You were lousy on the radio. But one thing I was a gamer. And I do want to apologize. I want to apologize for not being on the show Tuesday. Tom, I took a terrible, terrible fall.
Yeah, tell us about it. Well, I'm being serious. What happened? I want to know what happened.
It is serious. I was on my balcony. I was doing some paperwork. I was very busy. My business, my financial business, I got to focus. So I was out on my balcony looking over the Ohio River. I have that penthouse and everything, one of the best views on the river. Not that matters. So I got up and I took my coffee cup and my glasses and I was going to the bedroom. And you know how I wear flip-flops? I don't like to wear shoes. I only wear flip-flops or bare feet. And I tripped on my flip-flops. They kind of rolled on me. I had my glasses and my cup of coffee. I didn't want to spill the coffee. And my glasses, and I don't know why I was worrying about my glasses. They were my cheapest pair of glasses that I have, like Maui Jim's, about $450. Big deal, right? If you break those glasses. So I trip, I fall, and hit my head. I'm out, Tom. I'm KO'd. That's the name. That's what happened. Danae had gone grocery shopping. She comes back and sees me flat on my face, all this blood. I wake up to her crying. She's on the phone with Hunter. What the hell's Hunter going to do? He's not a doctor. What should I do, Hunter? Hunter says, tell him to shake it off. That's what he used to tell me, moving along. And it was really, really scary. It was.
So you were actually passed out from the blow.
I was out
because you're holding both of these things and you fall forward because you obviously hit your face. So was that on a hardwood floor? I mean, you probably have like that really fine hardwood floor kind of thing, or maybe something more elaborate. I don't know.
Yeah, I do. I have like that. It's kind of an old world look, but that's not what I hit. Very expensive floor, but that's not what I hit. I hit my expensive bed and the post.
Oh, okay.
And got knocked out. And here, and all kidding aside, and because I'm always joking about everything, and it upsets me. because that's my 8th concussion that I've had. I was sick all yesterday. And like I said, Tom, I am a gamer. And I felt so bad not going on the show. I just woke up to text you say I could not go on that show. But to have my 8th concussion, the brain can't take that. And I need to be watched because I've taken too many hits to the head. And it's something that really, really bothers me because my short-term memory is starting to go.
Really?
And I don't like that. And I've had concussions since I was a little kid, playing football, a car accident, a fight, all these things, falling off my bike. And now and to get another concussion like this, I was sick all day yesterday. My neck is bad. My vision's a little blurry. I'm having headaches, which I never have. And now I've got another concussion. And I'm talking about 8 legit concussions. Now, the other 6 out of 8, I threw up. I actually threw up when I got sick and had the concussion. This one, I was just nauseous and just my vision was blurry. So I'm upset about it, and I need to be more careful.
You know, we were joking around a lot at first here, but it certainly sparks the conversation. T. Higgins with the Bengals suffered a concussion over the weekend. And, when I was doing the NFL every year for 25 years, we would have a seminar for 3 days out in your old stomping ground out there in Southern California down at Palos Verdes. And
nice.
And it's really, it was really nice setup. The nicest setup
really nice.
I've ever been a part of. It was beautiful. But we have this 3-day seminar, and over the seminar, all the announcers come in, all the producers, all the directors, all the technical people. So like the Terry Bradshaws and the Howie Longs and, Troy Aikmans and all those guys are sitting around in a room, and we have different segments, no different than some conference you might go to in the business world or the sales world or medical device world. Mm-hmm. And you'd have different segments of people that would come up and present. And the NFL basically chewed up one day on various different topics. But one of the most interesting was this whole concussion thing because, in my opinion, the NFL is in a very similar situation from a legal standpoint that tobacco companies were in for many years ago and all those class action lawsuits and so forth, okay?
Yes.
This concussion thing is a very serious topic, and you're somebody who is living through it and has lived through it and the repercussions of those things. And here you are now, a guy in your 50s, and 60, and you're getting worried about it. It's a very serious, real issue.
Well, because you don't know what the damage is until you have an autopsy, right? Tom, when I played football, in high school and all that stuff, when you had a hit to the head, you know what they used to say? Shake it off. You're all right. I've heard stories about the Bengals going back in the 70s. They'd run you right back off. There was right back on the field. There was no concussion protocol, right? Like they have now. I just think it's a big deal. And your comparison to the smoking industry, Philip Morris, I think is tremendous. And I think there's big issues. The CTE. Look at what happened to Junior Seau. Look at the Durson, the safety for
David
the Bears.
Durson. Yep.
Yeah, just really sad cases. And if I could say something to the parents, and I know there's thousands and thousands of people watching this right now, I would not have my kid play football. I really think it's bad because I don't think their brain is fully developed. And I could be off target here. I'm not.
No, but here's the deal, Tracy. Okay, and here's the deal. And I used to get into debates with I'm not going to call them elitists, but some parents that, you live in a neighborhood, it's a nice neighborhood, some people got some money and my kid's not going to play football, and they're screaming and yelling across the country, kids shouldn't be playing football and we should outlaw it. And I always look at them and I say, okay, I hear your argument. I understand it. But for you to try and make that decision for people, let's just say the kid who lives in the country who's 6'5" and 275 pounds, who's in the middle of somewhere in Ohio, and it's his only chance maybe to go to college, is to play football in high school, right? And the kid in the inner city, right, who maybe is going to a city school, let's say here in Cincinnati, where maybe it's some at Taft or at Woodward, or maybe in a community like Winton Woods. I mean, those kids are getting a chance that they otherwise more than likely would not get, and it comes by playing football.
I know, and you can't blame them at all. But I think you have to realize, there's life after sports, and the damage that's done when you're playing and getting the hits, the knocks to the head constantly. It's just tough, Tom. It really is. And I can just see, Tom, I'm brilliant. I don't know, very high IQ, 91 on my Series 7. And I'm finding that I'm slacking off a little bit. My concentration isn't as good. I don't know if you know that I'm a little aggressive now. So there's been some changes in my behavior. And I just worry about too many hits to the head. I really, really do, because, I got hit really hard. And what happened to me the other night scared me. And I'm tough to scare, but I says, enough's enough. I need to know what's around my surroundings, right? I shouldn't be
you got a lot going on. You've got your financial business where, you're one of the few guys that in this horrible market, in this horrible economy, and all this inflation. A couple of days ago, stock market drops over 1,000 points. We're being told that by spending a bunch of money, we're going to, help inflation. Everybody knows that's not true. But you're a guy who's still finding a way to make your clients money. So you got that going on. I think you're a landlord, if I'm not mistaken, and now you're a part of this program.
Yeah, I think just on the economy, and I'm not really allowed to talk about stocks and all that stuff, but just on the economy, I think we're in for some really tough times. And I think when you shut down economies, disrupt supply chains, and hand people checks to stay home and not work, it's not all right. You can't print money like they're printing and think everything's okay. The CPI came out 2 days ago, and inflation is out of control. I know gas prices are coming down, but we're in for some tough go about it. I'm very nervous, I got to be honest with you, because there's really nowhere to hide.
Okay. Well, your client.
But Tom, you have a lot of money, and it doesn't really matter to you. You just put them in T-bills and just let it work. But a lot of people, a lot of ham and eggers, they got to grind it out a little bit. And before you go on to something else, enough about me. People get tired of, about Tracy Jones. Tracy Jones, enough for Tracy Jones. Can I pay you a compliment? You ready?
Please. I never hear him from my wife. That would be great. I'd love it.
Okay. I used to do a show called Extra Innings.
Yes, you did.
And it was very popular.
Everybody was very popular. You're the best host of all time of that show. And you're the best host of all time in drive time radio in this city. When you were going to WLW. Anyway, go ahead, please.
Yeah, without a doubt. But I had this skill, and I would talk about it on the air. I would see something, and I'd say, this is what's going to happen. And it would happen. And I would say to people, I see things that you people don't see. It's an attribute, a skill that very few people have, Tom. If you have it, you're very gifted. You, Tom Brenneman, have that. And let me tell you why. All last week you were talking about the Bengals. And you were talking about how Zach Taylor needed to play the starters during the preseason. Did you not say that?
I did.
You were saying it the entire week. The offensive line not playing together.
Yep.
You said it over and over and over again. And I'm thinking, geez, Tom, give it a break. Yep. You were right on. You were right on. You see things that other people do not see. It's a gift that you have, Tom, and people need to watch you and listen to you because you're a very special person. So congratulations. That offensive line, terrible.
Terrible.
They'll
be better this week, though. I promise you. And
I do too.
They're going to be a lot better this week. Just having that live action, playing together. They're going to be a lot better. I'm not worried about them. I want to get to a couple. Thank you for the compliment, by the way. I want to get to you about a couple of things that happened since we last got together. We touched on it a little bit, but one of the changes in baseball for next year is the elimination of the defensive shifts. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't understand what we're doing here. So you're rewarding a player that pulls off the ball. All he does is pull the ball. He can't hit oppo taco. And now you remove the shift. Sure, that's going to add a couple of hits to a ball game. But I just didn't Ted Williams have a shift?
Well, wait a minute now. I mean, you're talking about the greatest hitter of all time, okay? That's not some ham and egger that's out there grinding to try and stay in the big leagues.
But the whole point is, Tom, he found a way to get through that shift. He was still going to pull the ball, but it didn't matter how many infielders they put on that right side, he'd still find a way to hit through it. I just don't understand. I don't understand all the changes, Tommy. I don't understand. What's with making the bases wider? What's that? Is that the problem?
What? You know what? They're saying, Tracy, this stuff has been pretty good, testing it in the minor leagues. I'm with you. I don't know. But let me ask you this, because you were a really, really fast guy and a base stealer and an aggressive base runner, okay? If I'm not mistaken, the year you got hurt, you were leading the league in stolen bases, if I remember right.
I was second.
Okay.
But I would have, I would have eventually led the league in stolen bases.
There's no doubt. I mean, because you were getting on base all the time. You're not going to cover off the ball. You're getting on base. You're running. Okay, but here's the question I ask, and I'm being serious about this second. A bigger base, coupled with the fact that a pitcher can only throw over twice, okay, or they're saying disengage with the rubber, so he actually doesn't even have to throw over. He can just step off the rubber, but it counts as one of the two. As a base stealer, now you were a terrific base stealer, but even a moderate base stealer, bigger bases, knowing the pitcher can only do that, don't you think that might lead to something we don't see in baseball anymore, and that's a little more action on the base pass?
How about some more stolen bases?
Right.
I mean, think about this, Tom. Go back to, was it 86 with the Cardinals, how they had that entire team that could run, right, except for one player, Jack Clark. I mean, that team was so tough to play against because every player could still. You had Vince Coleman, McGee, Tommy Hurd, Pendleton, Van Slyke. All those guys could still. All those guys can run. I just would like to get back to some of that. Instead of the whole spin to win, all about the home runs, the strikeout, put balls in play. Will bigger bases work? You know, I don't know. I don't know. The pitch clock. What is it, 15 seconds?
Yeah, or if there's a runner on base, it's 20. Yeah, so 15 with nobody on, 20 with a runner on base.
Let me go back to something that we talked about was the lack of offense, because there's not enough action in baseball. We agree with that, right?
Yeah, and that was my next question where I was going with you, because you've said we don't have enough offense, yet you are not in favor of something that theoretically could create more offense with the shift.
I'm more in favor of lowering the mound, of something like that, or even moving the mound back. And I'll tell you what, Tommy, and I just came across a stat, and it's something that I think you and I talked about with your dad years ago about how good the bullpens are now, right? Do you remember that conversation?
They're incredible. They're incredible.
They're incredible.
Yeah.
You and I agreed that the offense is having trouble because the bullpens are so good. Your dad disagreed. I don't know what he said, but it really didn't matter. You and I were on the same we agreed on this. Do you know, since 1991, the relief pitchers that have come in have increased their velocity from 91 to 95?
Yeah.
And there you have it.
Yeah. I mean, and there's been talk about moving the pitcher's mound back a little bit. I heard the voice of the Dayton Dragons gave a stat last night. He was on the radio with Lance McAllister. He gave a stat last night that as recently as 7 years ago, every team in Major League Baseball had more hits than strikeouts. This year, 18 of the 30 have more strikeouts than base hits.
That's unacceptable. I mean, how can you compare the sport of baseball to what we saw in the NFL on Sunday?
Well, you
right?
can't.
I'm a big NFL. I mean, it's totally different. I mean, so much action. And in baseball, it's not the length of the game. It's what's happening in those 3 hours or 3 hours and 10
You're
minutes.
spot on.
And listen, the Bengal game, because I knew I was going to go on. I didn't know I was going to get an accident and, hit my head and my 8th concussion. But I was going to talk about this on Tuesday as that Bengal game lasted 3 hours and 45 minutes, didn't it, buddy? Did anybody complain, say, oh, this is going on forever. When's it going to end? Of course not, because there was so much action. But if a game goes over 2.5 hours in baseball, I go, this is really dragging on. We got to quicken up the pace.
Well, there's no question about it. And I think that is the single greatest challenge that, along with the fan base getting older, it's fascinating, Tracy, and we'll dive into this another time, but I recently did a show. It was a roundtable kind of show with some executives, former executives in Major League Baseball, along with some former players. Adam Jones, very articulate, smart guy, good guy.
Good
player. Hell of a player. And talking about, African-American representation in Major League Baseball.
That's a great point.
When you were playing, I think the population of America was somewhere around 18% was African American in the United States, and that was roughly right around where the percentage was of African Americans in Major League Baseball. That percentage in greater society has not changed, but now you're down in the 6% range in baseball. And so some of these things you're talking about, and I find it interesting as I try to think of the macro and the whole thing with these rule changes, okay? And you think about the athletes that baseball is not getting anymore, and they're only looking at analytics and guys that can do this, and this, and one of the ones that they care about is not base running and not base stealing and not hitting and running. I just wonder at the end of the day if all of these things they're trying to do, and God bless them for trying, but I wonder if all these things they're trying to do will add up to nothing.
Well, I start thinking about all the black players or lack of black players when I played. You remember Darryl Strawberry, of course, Eric Davis, and Chris Brown all went to the same high school.
Yeah.
In Southern California, and all three pretty good ball players. But, Tom, I would disagree with you to a certain extent. Did you happen to see in the amateur draft this year, I think 5 out of the first 8 players were African-American.
Yes. The last 2 years we started to change that.
Yeah.
The last 2 years, and I should have corrected myself, the last 2 years, at least as far as the draft is concerned, you're right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign.
Time.
Yeah,
We'll
sure.
get into that another time because I think it's a fascinating topic. And quite frankly, it's one that guilty as charged with all the other things going on in sports. When I was asked to be a part of this roundtable discussion, and that was part of the discussion, I came in pretty ignorant to that, knowing what some of those numbers are, because at least in theory and in practice, Major League Baseball has invested billions of dollars in inner city, like the youth academy we have here in Cincinnati, and it started, I believe, out in Compton, California, out in your neck of the woods, and a whole bunch of others around the country, where at least the one in here in Cincinnati, they seem like they're doing great things to me.
It seems like I think they produced their first major leaguer not too long ago. And also think about the Latin America influence in the major leagues. I mean, there's a lot of academies out there in Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and so on and so forth. But baseball's got to make some adjustments. It's a lot to do, I think, as you compare it to the NFL and football.
Well, I mean, they're never going to be that. I mean, that's a whole different animal. But let me ask you now, moving forward, before I let you go, what kind of do you do? Can a person do nose exercises or head exercises as part of a rehab after a fall?
See, why do you think? See, you're trying to throw in humor here. I almost died, Tom. That's being a heartless person. No sensitivity. You know what you should be talking about, Tom Brenneman? Is being a gamer, like my wife said. That I came in
She
here.
did not say that. There's
She
no
don't
way
care.
Well, how long you guys been married?
Well, we've been together 20 years. I've known her since she was 19.
It's not what I asked
19
you.
people.
It's not what I
We've
asked you.
been
How long have you been married?
Well, we've been married 10 years.
Okay.
I dated 10 years before we got married. And I just felt after 10 years of dating, she earned the right to get married to a Major League Baseball player. I mean, 10 years is a long time to wait, ain't it? How about you and Paulie? How long did you date?
We dated about 2.5. I waited a little longer than most to get married for the first time. I was 37.
Now, you're happy in this marriage. I love Paulie, by the way.
Thank you.
But if I could give you a piece of advice, and people out there, you're married the first time, I would give you advice as far as get a divorce. To get a divorce, you'll be a lot happier the second time. And I'm thinking, how happy am I going to be when I marry my third wife?
Well, hey, case in point, my dad. You're dialed in, right? Case in point, my dad. Happiest guy in the world. He's on number 3. What's that commercial that guy does? Big Lou. He's on number 2, like you, whatever it might be. All right, Tracy, get better, my friend. God bless you. I hope you feel better and you get better.
All right. Thanks, Tommy. Have a good weekend, buddy.
You too. Tracy Jones, man. That guy, nobody, I don't think, on the planet makes me laugh like that dude. And I'm glad he's all right. I mean, we were joking around a lot, and but you can see that was a serious injury and a serious fall, and I'm glad he's okay.